Добрий вечір, вже хотіла казати добрий день. Вітаю всіх. Поставте, будь ласка, плюсик, якщо ви мене добре бачите, чуєте. Так, супер. Все працює. Мене звати Степанченко Ольга, я менеджер міжнародних іспитів Pearson в Україні. Можете написати, з якого міста ви доєднуєтесь. Харків, вітання. Так, приємно вас бачити. Запоріжжя, мені здається, на кожному івенті у нас Запоріжжя, Херсон. Вітання Херсону, Миколаїв. Мені здається, я вперше бачу Черкаси. У нас, до речі, в Черкасах ще немає центру тестування. Тому, якщо ви працюєте в мовній школі або в університеті, в коледжі, да, і вам цікава співпраця, ви бачите свій розвиток з міжнародними іспитами Pearson, будь ласка, напишіть мені після вебінару. Я думаю, ми можемо розпочинати. Сьогодні я та мій колега Геннадій Білус, він доєднається трішки пізніше, поговоримо з вами про Pearson English International Certificate. Це була назва, мабуть. Підкажіть, будь ласка, можливо, хтось пам'ятає, як раніше називався цей іспит? Мабуть, сьогодні всі новенькі. Так. Це оновлена назва. Так, бачу, PTE. Так, раніше цей іспит називався PTE General, але це оновлена назва Pearson English International Certificate, тому ми привчаємося використовувати її. Хочу поділитися з вами 5 причинами, чому наші кандидати вибирають іспит від Pearson. По-перше, він визнаний більше, ніж в 50 країнах світу, звичайно, включаючи Україну. Перевіряє цей тест здатність кандидата використовувати англійську на практиці, тобто в життєвих ситуаціях. Частина говоріння проходить сам на сам з екзаменатором, тобто тут ви можете якнайкраще продемонструвати свої навички, свої вміння, і ніхто третій вам на це не впливає. І частина говоріння, і частина письма перевіряються виключно у Великій Британії. Всі папери відправляємо у UK. І сертифікат, він не має строку придатності. Ось так виглядає сам сертифікат. Його валідність регулюється серйозними компаніями у світі, такими як Ofqual та Edexcel. Оригінальність цього сертифікату підтверджують ось ця голограма, і кожен сертифікат має свій індивідуальний номер. А що ж потрібно зробити так, щоб отримати цей заповітний сертифікат? Для рівнів від A1 до C1 потрібно набрати щонайменше 50% правильних відповідей. Тоді ви складаєте іспит. Якщо ви набираєте 60-69%, це означає, що ви склали іспит на відмінно, і якщо 70 і більше, це означає, що ви склали іспит з відзнакою. Для рівня C2 потрібно набрати щонайменше 60% для того, щоб отримати сертифікат. Але є така ще у нас плюшка. Для рівнів від A2 до C1, якщо ви не набираєте 50%, а десь від 40 до 49%, ви отримаєте сертифікат на нижчий, за заявлений. Наприклад, якщо ви складаєте іспит B2, але набрали 43% правильних відповідей, ви отримуєте сертифікат на B1. Для C2, якщо ви набираєте 50-59% правильних відповідей, ви отримуєте сертифікат на рівень C1. Ділка по п'ятниці, 9 до 18. Тож, якщо у вас є запитання, будь ласка, пишіть мені. Передаю слово Геннадію. Так. Єн.
Я тут, нікуди далеко не втік. Вітаю тебе, Олю. Вітаю, шановні учасники. Слава Україні! Надзвичайно радий вас всіх бачити. Дякую, що доєднуєтесь до серії наших вебінарів про міжнародні мовні іспити. Дякую, Олю, тобі за інтро, за 5 плюс, я думаю, причин, які можуть стати вирішальними для тих з вас, хто обиратимуть підготовку кандидатів до міжнародних мовних іспитів, тому що причин цих може бути і більше, так, це і просто, наприклад, коли я починав готувати своїх учнів, кандидатів до складання таких міжнародних іспитів, це як мінімум була так одна з причин, перша для мене тоді було це якийсь серйозний міжнародний результат моєї діяльності, так, моєї діяльності як вчителя по підготовці, і так само визнання досягнення можливості здобутків вивчення мови моїх учнів. Мені здається, це дуже такий, знаєте, tangible, так, результат, той, що можна взяти прямо в руках сертифікат і ніколи з ним не розлучатись. Вітаю вас, шановні колеги, які долучаються звідусіль, з усіх куточків нашої прекрасної країни. Ті з вас, хто були змушені, можливо, полишити свої домівки через війну Росії проти нас, але дуже сподіваюся, що у вас все більш-менш в порядку, і ви готові дізнаватись для себе щось нове. Так, у мене є на початку питання. Так як у нас проходить серія вебінарів, то напевне деякі з вас вже долучались до попередніх вебінарів серії. Так, у нас цей вебінар це повтор вебінару «Говоріння». Проте у нас вже були і вебінар, який стосувався частини читання, частини письма, іспиту. Будь ласка, поставте плюсик ті з вас, хто вже колись в своєму житті готував до міжнародних мовних іспитів. Зараз мова не тільки про PEIC, а просто мені цікаво, хто з вас вже має досвід підготовки кандидатів до будь-яких міжнародних мовних іспитів. Пірсонівських, кембриджських, IELTS, TOEFL, так, ну, напевне, ця четвірка така найвідоміших, найпопулярніших іспитів. Пірсонські, іспити від нас, від Кембридж, так, IELTS і TOEFL. Напевне, більше з таких найпопулярніших мені складно назвати. Так, є у нас добра така, напевно, 30-ка плюсиків, десь так плюсиків 25-30. Чудово. Супер. Так. І в мене є таке ще питання каверзне трішки, прямо на початку нашого сьогоднішнього заходу. Поставте, будь ласка, одиничку ті з вас, хто, ну, вирішив, ні, воно не каверзне, воно абсолютно нормальне, робоче, правильне вчительське питання. Так. Поставте, будь ласка, одиничку ті з вас, хто готував до інших міжнародних мовних іспитів, не Pearson, але зараз ось роздумує серйозно саме над підготовкою до пірсонівських іспитів по будь-яких причинах, чи вирішили дізнатись більше і вам сподобалось, чи просто зрозуміли, що, можливо, вони цікавіші будуть для вас, для ваших кандидатів, чи за відсутності зараз тимчасової інших іспитів, ви вирішили скористатися саме зараз послугами провайдера міжнародних мовних іспитів Pearson. І такі є. Супер. Чудово. Вже у нас є люди і колеги з досвідом, в принципі, підготовки, і ті, хто ось готував до якихось інших і вирішили спробувати, що то є таке міжнародні мовні іспити від компанії Pearson. Супер. Дякую вам дуже за те, що ділитесь інформацією. Сподіваюся, всім сьогодні буде корисно. Окей. I think we'll get down to the main part of today's webinar. All right. Now, it's fantastic, guys, that you're all active in the chat, because this is where I'm going to address you to share some of the opinions and experiences, and this is where I strongly recommend you to put your questions. We'll have some time. I hope we have some time at the end of today's webinar for me and Ola to answer all your questions. As well as that, please have a look in your toolbar. You've got a specific section which is called Q&A. If you have any particular questions about the test, about the contents of today's webinar, make sure you put your questions there, because the chat will, will go on, and there will be some interaction, and maybe some questions are going to be lost in the chat. So you've got the Q&A. Please put all your questions there. All right. Good. So let's move on. Speaking of PEIC exam, there are 6 levels to PEIC, which align with 6 levels of SAFRA, right? Of Common European Framework of Reference, all the way starting from A1, A2, B1, B2, C1, C2 level exam. So all the levels are there, so we can provide any level test for any level of candidates you get ready for international language examinations. And depending on the level, yes, the length of the test, as well as its complexity, obviously, are going to change. Today, we'll have a more detailed look at this level. So all the samples, actually all the samples for the whole series of webinars will come from level 3, which is level B2 SAFRA. And this being one of the most popular levels taken. Yes, one of the most popular exam test levels taken. Yes, this is as high probably as most of Ukrainian candidates are heading towards, right? So B2 level. However, B1 and A2 also are quite popular in C1, so all the levels, but B2 obviously being one of the most important. So all the samples come from this level. This is the structure of the test. There are 2 papers. Paper 1 is called written paper, and it tests candidates' abilities to listen, read, and write in English, and it lasts for 2 hours at this level, at level B2, upper intermediate. And paper 2 is a spoken paper, or speaking, and at this level, it lasts for about 6 minutes. And speaking is in our focus today, so that's what we're going to have a closer look at. That would be speaking. So, good. Now, my first question to you is, please answer it in the chat. Very easy question, so it's just for you, warming up your fingertips and just starting, and just continue an interaction with me in the chat. Is this one? What kind of skill is speaking? What do we call this type of skill? Again, compared to, say, listening and reading. Very good. Exactly. Yeah, fantastic. Thank you for such a quick response in the chat. I see that you've warmed up with some previous questions, with some chat, and we'll be using that definitely today at some points. Good, productive, right? And because it is a productive skill as well as writing, right? So these 2 are both productive skills, writing and speaking. That automatically means that, and communicative. Yeah, I guess. That automatically, because it is a productive skill, it automatically means that the assessment criteria that is used to assess it, basically, yes, to identify the current level is not very straightforward, meaning that it's not as with reading or listening where everything is mostly correct or incorrect. Yes, you either get something correctly or something incorrectly. With speaking, it's a bit more complex, which means that we who get our candidates ready need to know what is expected from our candidates. Our candidates need to be aware of what they are going assessed to. Yes, what's the criteria, and obviously the examiners who check all of that, they take into considerations a few different elements, a few different criteria when they are working with the recordings of speaking they get from Ukraine as well. That being said, assessment criteria is something we'll have well in a bit more detail today. All right, so we'll concentrate on the assessment criteria and see what it is like, because you know, when I think that it's the time when I started preparing my students for exams and being the examiner myself. This is where I first learned how many aspects there are to speaking, yes, and how I need to, you know, let my students feel about it. So that's an important bit. I believe one more thing, we'll have a look at the task types. So by the end of today's session, you will be aware of what task types there are. So what candidates do in this or that part of a speaking test, yes, in this or that task of a speaking test. And one more thing on our agenda, which is more aimed at those of you who have had already some experience preparing for PEIC, okay? Because I'll briefly share with you some important change, well, an important change actually that has taken place quite recently. So it's not going to be any type of change for the newcomers, okay? But those of you who have been with us for some time, this is probably something that you haven't been told yet, or that you haven't been aware yet by now, okay? So that's what that's our agenda: assessment criteria, task types, and one important change that has taken place. And we'll start with the assessment criteria. So there are more than 200 people now in this webinar, so we'll have many opinions from you now. I hope you are active in the chat, answering this question. What about personally you, ladies and gentlemen? What criteria do you use when you assess your students speaking? So when your students speak, yes, and you assess them, and that's some sort of a task or some sort of a speaking activity that you'd like to put a mark for, yes, or that you'd like to get to your students back with some feedback. So what are the things that you consider? What are the things that you find important? What are the things that you draw your students' attention to and pay attention to yourself? So in the chat, thank you again. The chat starts running. Accuracy, fluency. Lots of you, okay. Accuracy and fluency are dominating at the time. Coherence, good. Logic, vocabulary, grammar, pronunciation, together with fluency. Accuracy, fluency, range, and organization. Organization, maybe that means like the organization, how structured the response is. Yes, maybe that's what you mean by organization, if I get you right. Appropriateness. Okay, how appropriate to the, okay. Informativeness. All right. Accuracy and fluency. Yeah, many of you mentioned accuracy and fluency, vocabulary and grammar, pronunciation as well. Variety of vocabulary. By variety of vocabulary, Tatiana, I think that that's what some of you call range. That's probably variety, what variety of vocabulary is. Yes, variety, so the range of it. Yes, good. Understanding. Janina, what exactly do you mean by understanding? That's maybe range of grammar, vocabulary, intonation, covering the task, questions, logic, pronunciation, full sentences. What about, like short sentences? Short reactions, just well, that's. So what about all these? Do these matter? All these, like discourse markers and just reactions and things. Okay, their opinion, pronunciation, vocabulary, good. Thank you very much. Gap fillers, yeah, that's what you call them exactly. Gap fillers, that's right. Lexical resource, grammatical range, and accuracy. Thank you, excellent. Thank you very much, everyone. I think I've achieved the results I was expecting from you. You sharing so many different things that are worth and are important, yes, when someone speaks. Yes, because it's not only about mistakes that we make. And actually, no one has mentioned mistake. Well, I mean, you were talking about accuracy. Well, actually, accuracy, that would mean, yes, how accurate the language is and mistakes and everything else. But as well as that, you've shared with everyone so many other very important things, which kind of just summarizes that, yes, speaking is a very complex thing, and voila. These are the things, these are the criteria that are being considered when PEIC candidates are being given their points, for speaking. And I think you've mentioned all of them. So all of them you've mentioned, you've mentioned even more criteria that you personally use as well. But these 5 are the main criteria that candidates get points for when speaking in PEIC. And these are all taken from SEFRA. So everything about the test is definitely aligned to common European framework of reference, to the descriptors that are mentioned in the common European framework of reference, and all the other things about it. So it's all aligned to it. Now, I've got another question to you, okay? A very important question. And it sounds like this. In the chat, put the number of the criterion you think which is the most important one. So put the number of the criterion which you think is the most important when someone speaks. Okay. All right. Many of you are mentioning 1 and 2 and I think 3 as well. And 4 and 3 and 2. Okay, different opinions. 1 and 2, I think 1 and 2 are dominating. Okay. I will comment on that, Anastasia, in just a moment. Okay, 1 and 2, I think all of them. Right, yes. And some of you, and a few of you, I think I've counted 3 or 4. A few of you who have put all of them. Well, which is true? All of it or all of them? I think all of them is more accurate than all of it. All of them, true. Speaking of, yeah, I mean, personally to us, or well, the way we think or the way we go about it in class could be different. We could value one criterion over another in our teaching practice, no problem. But if we speak about the international language examination, if we speak about PEIC, all of them is important. All of them are important. And because for each and all of them, all the candidates could get the maximum of 5 points. So they get 5 points for fluency, 5 points for interaction, 5 points for range, accuracy, phonological control. All of them are equally important. all of them can bring to candidates their points. And it's not that range. You can get 5 points for range and only 2 for phonological control. No, all of them matter. All of them are important. And therefore, sometimes when you understand that you have not the strongest candidate in accuracy, for instance, so they make mistakes, time after time, but they try to experiment with range and they're quite fluent, so they don't mind their mistakes. Okay, I make some, no problem. I can still go on and I can still express and then it's high chance that they will get still high mark and many points in their speaking, because this would be just one of the criterion that they are that is weak, right? And other things are better. So all of them are important in terms of the test and exam. Now, and so 5 points, yes, it's only at level 5. At level C2, they can get maximum of 3 points, but that's just the matter of the test itself. Now, what I'd like us now to do is to have slightly closer look at a few descriptors at level 3, okay? So today, samples come from level 3, that is upper intermediate, B2. Let us see what the descriptors for this level say about candidates' abilities, candidates' speaking abilities at this level. So we'll just read some of them, okay? I'll read them with you, and we'll have this first impression or imagination of, okay, so that's approximately what is expected from my candidates at level 3, at level B2. So for instance, speaking of fluency, all right? So the descriptor says, can produce stretches of language with a fairly even tempo. Okay, so it's not like the fluentest tempo in the world, with fairly even tempo. Although can be hesitant, searching for patterns and expressions, there are few noticeable long pauses. So not many, but still there are few long pauses that are accepted, yes, and that are fine at this level. Level 3. What else we'd be doing now? We'd not be looking only at level 3, but I'd like us all to have a look at level 4 together, so that you see the gap between what is expected at B2 and C1 levels. Yes, if we compare these two, so that you see the gap and you see how big or quite big the gap is, right? So C1 is a completely different thing to aim at. Because at level 4, for fluency, it says, can express themselves fluently and spontaneously, almost effortlessly. Only a conceptually difficult subject may hinder a natural, smooth flow of language. I'm showing you that, we'll just there is one reason, so that we need to understand that level B2 is still, it's upper intermediate, yeah, so it's not the highest level possible. And we need to treat that and we need to understand that, and we need to be aware of that when we get our candidates ready. And so a few long pauses, okay, no problem. Some hesitations, possible. Fairly even tempo, not the fluentest you would want it to be. That's okay. It's still all about level 3. So do not underestimate the abilities of your learners, of your candidates. Sometimes they show quite high level, but it's just we who'd like them to be even better than that. What about interaction? Level 3. Can initiate discourse, take their turn when appropriate, and end conversation when need to, although may not always do this elegantly, right? So there is still some breaks in this interaction, right? Can help the discussion along on familiar ground, confirming comprehension and inviting others in. it's at this level, at level 3, that candidates are expected to give the floor to the examiner. That's completely fine. When a candidate asks the interlocutor something like, what about you? What do you think? Do you agree? How about you? So just inviting the interlocutor to step in and participate. So please teach your candidates to do that at level 3, like starting at level 3 and onwards. At level 4, interaction, can select a suitable phrase from a readily available range of discourse functions to preface their remarks in order to get or keep the floor and relate their own contributions skillfully to those of other speakers. So a lot more, yes, a lot more smoothness and a lot more readiness and a lot more, well, things to interaction here at level 4. What we got here, range. Has sufficient range of language to be able to give clear descriptors, express viewpoints on most general topics, without much conspicuous searching for words, using some complex sentence forms. So at level B2, at level upper intermediate, it's still most general topics, some complex sentence forms. So it's not that, yes, the speech of a candidate consists only of advanced vocabulary, grammar, and functional language. It shouldn't yet, a bit too early for that. However, at level 4, let's see, has a good command of a broad range of language, allowing her to select a formulation to express themselves clearly in an appropriate style on a wide range of general, academic, professional, or leisure topics without having to restrict what they want to say. So this one is different, right? C1s are different. Accuracy. So that's basically about, yes, making mistakes, yes, in grammar and vocabulary and functional language and so on. So functional language. So shows a relatively high degree of grammatical and lexical control. Does not make errors which cause misunderstanding and can correct most of his or her mistakes. So mistakes, possible. Cause misunderstanding, shouldn't, right? So this is where it gets important. And most of mistakes can be corrected. Level 4, consistently maintains a high degree of grammatical accuracy. Errors are rare and difficult to spot and generally corrected when they occur. So again, there is a certain gap. And the last one, phonological control, has a quite clear natural pronunciation and intonation. At level 4, finer shades of meaning. Yes, a very intonation, place sentence stress correctly in order to express these finer shades of meaning. So this is where it gets important. Yes, not only natural and clear, but finer shades of meaning. All right. So these are the so this is what the descriptors for level 3 and level 4 tell us, and this is what is expected from our candidates. More detail on that you will find in this score guide that we are sharing with you. I will ask Ola, could you please find the link to this score guide for Pearson's international certificate, paper-based, and share it with everyone in the chat. So after our webinar, you'll have the chance to go and check out what the score guide says, because, well, obviously today we're not capable of covering everything that it has. So you'll have, especially those of you who are in the preparation of the candidates for the test or are thinking really seriously about that, you will find it very, very useful, and you'll find some valuable data there. Yeah, sure, Ola, no problem. So when you find it, just put it in the chat. Right. Sorry. We move on. We move on with basically, so the assessment criteria is done. We've had, well, some general look at it and see that the variety of it and some descriptors and have, now we have, or will have in 1 minute access to the score guide. Now, the task types. All right, now I'll share with you the task types. So what exactly students, candidates do when they sit the test. Part 1 of the speaking test is called discussion. So it's called discussion, and let me share with you, let me explain to you how it works. So what this discussion is all about. So basically, candidates would have a prompt or just a question from an interlocutor, all right? So they will hear something like that. The interlocutor would say, now I'd like us to discuss something together. So that will like initiate the discussion, yes, the intro to it. And then the interlocutor reads a question. So he says, here is the question. I will show you one of the possible questions now on the slide in the chat. Ola, thank you for the link. In the chat, please, well, put a plus if you agree or a minus if you disagree with the question, okay? So this is the question. Modern life often means that families don't sit together and down and eat together. Well, basically, does this matter? Put a plus if it matters to you. Put a minus if you think that, well, that's okay, that's fine, that's life, that's modern life. What can we do about it? So let's see what you think about this question in the chat. Okay. I think most of you care. Most of you, yeah, most of you care, and that matters to you. Some of you, well, minus, yeah, what we can do about that. That's just the way things are in the modern world. Some of you go for plus minus. I will come down to this bit in a few moments, okay? So I will comment on the plus and minus. Well, basically, I will comment on everything. I will comment on everything. Okay, thank you very much. Again, very active in the chat, very participate. Yeah, it depends. Well, that's true. So thank you for your answers. Now, so the first thing, again, interlocutor asks a question. Yes, there's something I'd like to discuss. This is the question. Does this matter? And this is the first, and this is where the candidate needs to respond. Yes, either it matters to them or not, like you did in the chat. So you would say something like, yes, it matters because families, it's a quality time when families sit together and enjoy their meal and talk together or something. And basically, so we choose what we feel about that, the candidate chooses, and then we give some kind of a argument or a sample, something to justify why we think this way, right? So an idea plus an argument. But then what happens in a discussion, no matter what the candidate chooses, the interlocutor will always disagree. So the interlocutor chooses the opposite point of view, and they will say something like, yeah, I see what you mean. However, yes, everything changes so fast and the world is so dynamic that you can rarely find time. Do you agree? And the interlocutor will invite the candidate, yes, to again step in. What is suggested here in this part of the test is that it's suggested, it's not compulsory, but it's suggested that a candidate chooses a certain point of view and sticks to it throughout the whole discussion. So if at the beginning of the discussion you decide that it matters to you, okay, that you care for that, you choose it and you try to support your opinion with arguments throughout the whole discussion. If you decide that it doesn't matter to you, that's what you stick to. Those of you who has put in the chat plus minus or something like it depends. Okay, that's also possible. If a candidate goes back and forth every now and then, that's not a problem. But this is what will probably not make the discussion very smooth. No matter what the candidate says, the interlocutor has two possible set of prompts for both scenarios. If the candidate says yes, the interlocutor has for families not eating together, and the interlocutor would choose these prompts. The second, the moment the candidate, you know, swaps to a different opinion, the interlocutor would swap their prompts as well. It all happens for the conversation, for the discussion to move on. Because you agree with me? The moment we both say yes, the discussion is over. It just stops. So there is no need, there is no sense to go on. So for this game of ping pong, to continue, the interlocutor here takes always the opposite point of view and would always disagree and pick up their prompts accordingly. So just, you know, well, the thing when a candidate swaps to different ideas and different opinions would be confusing only for the candidate, or could be confusing only for the candidate. Because it's at this stage that the candidate would probably lose themselves, like whether they agree or disagree, who's got the point, they or the interlocutor. So this could probably be the moment of confusion, because the interlocutor has their prompts, you know, have their prompts, and they would just read it, no problem. But the candidate would be like, they would say, so the interlocutor says something and the examiner say, and the test taker says, yes, I agree with you. So that would just mean the interlocutor takes a different side, and that's it. So it's not bad if candidates change their opinions on the way, but it would be better still to decide at the beginning and to stick to it as much as possible, just for the conversation to go, you know, like back and forth like a ping pong game, and all right, good. So that's the discussion, and that's something that could be important about it. Now let's move on with another part of the test. Oh yeah, and it takes about 2 minutes. So this discussion text. Well, I had a question in the previous webinar if the candidate needs to achieve a certain aim. No. So it's not that a candidate needs to persuade the interlocutor in something. No. So it's just a few lines, a few goes, 3 to 4 goes, and the interlocutor would say, thank you. Let's move on to a different part of the test. So there is no aim here, no persuasion, no conviction in something or something. Anyway, now, anyone can give me the name for the second part of the test? Anyone? Any ideas? What's the name for the second part of the test? Description. What kind of description, Katerina? Anyone? Picture description. That's it. Exactly. The pics. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah. So it's obviously I was sure that you're going to say that, but again, that's just for a bit of interaction there in the chat and for you to, what is this Gennady wants us to say? So yes, picture description. Yeah, good. So at this, what do I have here? Right. This is something that this task might have. For instance, the interlocutor says something. Now, here are 2 pictures, and the interlocutor gives the pictures to the candidate. So here are 2 pictures showing different types of holidays. Please tell me what you can see in the pictures. Even though, everyone, here comes the important thing. Even though it's called picture description, right? At this level, at level 3, don't forget, it's level upper intermediate. It's quite high level. It's not that much about describing the picture itself. That should take, so this picture description, well, the candidates are expected to talk here for about 1 minute, 110, maybe 115 maximum, okay? And only about 20 to 25 seconds, not more, should be spent on really describing the pictures. That should be done very elegantly and just very, very like broadly. So we could say, well, in the first picture, we can see the castle. It's probably somewhere in the city. Yes. Well, we know what's the city it is, Communist Party, for instance. And the second picture shows, yes, the holiday outdoors somewhere in the wild nature next to the river. That's basically it, okay? That's all about picture description that should appear more or less. So it's not about weather, it's not about clothes, it's not about backgrounds, foregrounds, on the left, on the right, colors, so on and so forth. There should be quite minimum of that. What there should be instead, what should the, I see that you're putting ideas in the chat. Very good. Yes, Marina, thank you. So it's more, Marina Zuiva, thank you very much. It's more about picture comparison here. Yeah, so the big part of it is about picture comparison and comparing and contrasting pictures, right? So this is where the candidates are expected to say what the differences and the similarities are between these two different types of holidays. At the previous level, though, at level 2, which is level pre-intermediate, level intermediate, B1. This is where there is, it's all about picture description. So there is just one picture and students need to describe it in as much detail as possible. It's the previous level. This level, level 3, level B2, level upper intermediate, contrasting and comparing. That's what's the ideas about the pictures. Yeah, and comparison is the next one. Well, not really sure what the comparison is the next one. I mean, the next one, the level. I don't get it really, this one, Olga. But yeah, so this one is like, so it's the combination of two. It's a bit of a picture description, okay? Just part of it, part of a picture description. So we need to, yes, the candidate needs to show that they can describe it in just big detail, right? And then 2 types of holidays. They have this level has 2 pictures for a reason. Yes, and they would show some differences, some different, one topic, but different areas or different opinions or different ideas about this topic. So yes, it's holidays, it's about traveling, but 2 different types of holiday. And this is where they need to show, yeah, the candidates need to show what they think about it. Okay. So that's not only describing, but it's comparing and contrasting as well to a bigger extent. And then, so that's the first prompt. And as the second prompt here in this part of the test, students would have something like this. So the interlocutor would ask candidates question number 2 here. So there's just a question that would prompt 2 after 1 minute is over. They would say, so they would ask something like, what do you think are the advantages and disadvantages of both types of holidays? And this is where candidates should speak for about 30 to 40 to 1 minute maximum. Yes, what they think the advantages and disadvantages are. If some advantages and some disadvantages have already been expressed by a candidate when they were describing the pictures, so they could reformulate some of those. Yes, so not just repeat word by word. This is like, I said, and but just, it's good if they reformulate it, summarize it, or maybe come up with, you know, one or two other things that haven't been mentioned before. So this is the time, yes, when, well, there is no need to repeat because that already has been said, but it can be reformulated, summarized, pinpointed, or other things expressed about it. Oh, okay. Thank you, Olga. Now I get it. I mean, comparison to different people's answers. Okay. Thank you, Olga, for clarifying it. Thank you. So this is picture description, 2 prompts. The first prompt, a bit of a description and comparison. The second prompt, that would be a question that needs a bit more again. So this is the second prompt is to check how well candidates can respond, can react to something else about these pictures, and just make the answer or discuss the idea a bit more explicitly, so to say. And it takes for about 2 minutes for a candidate. So about 1 minute, the first prompt, and about 1 minute, the second prompt. So that is picture description. So that's part 2. And one more part we've got left, part 3 of this test is this one. Have a look at these different photos and any ideas what this part is called. So have a look. We have here, yes, it's like 2 friends, 2 colleagues. We've got a boss and an employee. And I think we've got a parent and a kid here. So, okay, Tamara, right, thank you. That role play, very good. Some kind of a dialogue, Allah says. Role play, small talk, collaboration, pair work, maybe role play. Very good. Okay, good. So different idea, yeah, communication. Right, exactly. So this part, interaction, good. Thank you. Thank you. Sum up, conclusion, pair work. All right, good. Excellent. So this is where, again, a candidate and an interlocutor, yes, they both take part in a role play. So 2 here, well, both parties are important for the role play to go fine. And this one is called role play. And one major thing that is being assessed here, that is being checked how well candidates can do that, is putting on roles. Depending on the situation, yes, depending on the context, candidates need to act accordingly. So if this is the situation with 2 friends, yes, the candidate is expected to behave friendly, to behave informal, to use, you know, some informal language and to feel relaxed and to show it that with their gestures and with their mimics and with their attitude and atmosphere that they understand that the interlocutor is their friend at the moment, and they talk as if they were friends. If it's a boss and an employee, yes, that again should be a bit more formal, a bit more respect, a bit other language and things like that. So that's what is being checked. Yes, something that we call style, something that we call register, something that's yeah. Okay. So role play. Now we're going to watch a video with you of how role play is done. You're going to see Olga and Robert doing a role play. Okay. Your task while you're watching the video is this. Oh, actually, your task to identify what Olga's task is. Because in a role play at this level, a candidate has a certain aim to be achieved. Okay? So please watch the video and think about what is Olga's aim for this role play. Okay? So let's do it.
Now, we're going to take part in a role play. Here is a card with the situation on it. Please read it to yourself. Okay, so I am your friend. You think I spend too much time inside. All right? You start.
Okay. Hello, Robert. How are you?
Fine, thanks. Yeah, you?
Me too. What are you going to do today?
I thought I might just relax here, maybe at home.
Wow, come on, you're always at home. I think that you need to go outside. Let us.
Where will we go and what will we do?
Have you ever been to the Ukrainian fashion park?
What's enjoyable about that?
Oh, it is really, really good place. It is an exhibition. It is open air exhibition of different monuments and of different sculptures of Ukrainian and foreign artists and sculptors.
I see. Will it cost much money?
No, it is free for coming, and you will really enjoy it. It is a really cozy place, and you will have a lot of just emotions.
I see. And you said it's outdoor, but it kind of depends on the weather. Have you seen the forecast?
Yes, I planned it, so we will go tomorrow. And tomorrow is going to be a sunny day, and it will not be very hot, so it is very good weather for going there.
Okay, that sounds good. Let's go then. Yeah.
Oh, I'm really happy.
Okay, me too. Okay, thank you. That is the end of the test.
All right. Okay, thank you. Yeah, we've got, I think, various ideas in the chat, but most of them are about one and the same thing: convincing, persuading, inviting Robert to go out. Exactly. Right. Use some prompt to persuade Robert to visit. Yeah, very good. So yes, it was like persuade a friend to go out. So it's not just inviting, yes, because you see the Robert was asking, yes, how much does it cost? Maybe he didn't want to spend much money, or what about the weather, or just have something to do at home. Yeah, so he didn't say, oh yeah, hooray, let's go out. So he was kind of trying to act as if he didn't want to. Yes, and her job was to somehow persuade and yeah, make him go. Very good. Yes, and the typical, so there is an aim at this level, at level 3. There is a certain aim that needs to be to achieved, and candidates have it on their paper. So it says your aim, and so the candidates should read it carefully, should identify what is really needed, and try to achieve it by the end of the talk, by the end of the role play. And then again, it lasts for about 2 minutes as well, so that the role play is about 2 minutes as well. These are the common tasks: persuade your partner, suggest that, apologize for, invite your partner, advise your partner, so on and so forth. Okay. Now, so basically, these are the task types that we've done with you. So these are the 3 parts to the test: part 1, part 2, and part 3. Discussion, picture description, and role play. And here comes an important change that I promised you at the beginning of today's webinar. And again, this is the important change, especially for those of you who have been with us for a few years now, for at least a few years now. Because what the test used to have, it used to have one more part to it: monologue. It was at the very beginning of the test, okay? And it was one of the formal parts of the test. Now it's gone, okay? So monologue is over as the official part of the test. Монологу тепер немає як такого. Instead, there is a warmer, okay, with some non-test questions. What the interlocutor would ask candidates at the very, very beginning of the test. Something like that. Before we start the main part of the test, would you like to have a warmer with a few non-test questions. So the prompt will sound something like this. So the interlocutor says, the main part of the test is not yet there. However, there is a suggestion, if you wish, to have a warmer with a few non-test questions. And these would be something as the monologue used to be. So these would be a few personal questions about family and about school, about work. Yes, depending on what age we are talking about interests, leisure time activities, so on and so forth. Okay, so these would be a few personal questions the candidate could choose to start with. Again, to energize, to warm up, to set the atmosphere, just to see how it all goes, to talk about themselves, so on and so forth. So a monologue as the official part is gone. However, its shade is still there in the way of a warmer with a few possible, not obligatory, non-test questions. And even if candidates make mistakes with these, they are not going to be assessed for making these mistakes. Okay, so if mistakes are made, no problem, they're not going to be assessed. Okay, basically that's it from me today. Це фактично все від мене. Я зараз запрошу ще сюди свою колегу Олю. Оля, долучись, будь ласка, до нас ще раз, буквально на кілька хвилин. І у Олі також є дуже важлива частина вебінару, що буквально хвилин 5 затримайтесь з нами, а потім ми ще хвилин 5 над вашими питаннями, якщо будуть, попрацюємо. Олю, прошу тобі слово.
Хочу ще поділитися ресурсами, які є в нас для підготовки до міжнародного іспиту Pearson. Це в нас 3 ресурси. Focus Practice Test Plus.
Так, якщо вони, так. Угу.
Що, да?
Угу.
Skills Boosters і Pearson Test of English General Practice Test. До цього синенького підручника також є є доступ до онлайн-платформи. На онлайн-платформі є також окремий додаток, full package, скажімо так. Але
будь-які з цих ресурсів, які Оля показує, ці вони дають можливість пропрацювати типові завдання, стратегії їх виконання, тому будь-які з них, просто останній, він такий ось цей PTE синенький праворуч, він найсучасніший, але попередні 2 актуальність свої у плані типів завдань і стратегії не втрачають.
Також рекомендуємо завантажити додаток Pearson English Warm-Up. Він є як на Android, так і на iOS. Там він повністю безкоштовний, є практичні завдання, тобто ви там їдете на роботу в метро, або є час, ви просто зайшли в додаток, там переглянули там частину читання чи аудіювання. Завжди гарний ресурс.
Так, якщо, Оля, буду так, якщо QR-код десь не встигаєте собі відзняти, то це все може бути завантажено або в Apple Store, або в Play Market, просто у ваших мобільних, тому не проблема. Бачу, пані Катерина пише, I had issues with app. Нам деякі учасники також писали про якісь проблеми використання додатку, але ось ми другий тиждень вебінаримо і перевіряли, і дивилися, багато учасників також писали, що у них все нормально працює. Можливо, спробуйте перезавантажити чи видалити, знов завантажити. Я б сам також перевіряв і на Android, і просив моїх Apple знайомих перевірити на Apple, ніби все працювало. Тому гляньте, будь ласка, ще раз.
Наш сайт, якщо в тебе є посилання, можеш, будь ласка, додати?
Зараз. Скажи кілька слів, що там можна знайти.
Тут на нашому сайті є окремий розділ іспити. Тут ви можете знайти інформацію і про дитячий іспит, також про онлайн іспит. Ця опція, вона доступна з 2023 року у нас. Ви можете скласти іспит, ви, ваші кандидати, якщо у когось є учні, які навчаються за кордоном, яким актуально отримання сертифікату, то можна складати онлайн-іспит з дому, зручно, в будь-який час забронювати там цей іспит можна буквально за 24 години. Посилання вже в чаті бачу, дякую.
Ага.
У розділі «Календар подій» ви можете реєструватися на наші наступні вебінари. Буде аудіювання 14-18 грудня, а також читання або письмо, якщо хтось не доєднувався до минулих вебінарів. Завжди всю актуальну інформацію про іспит, про наші заходи ви можете знайти в нашому інстаграмі або Фейсбуці. Ми додаємо туди всю інформацію. Якщо інколи жартуємо, інколи даємо корисну інформацію, тому, будь ласка, підписуйтесь. І, звичайно, що кожен учасник вебінару отримує сертифікат за участь. Сертифікати ми будемо відправляти десь через тиждень. Ще раз мої контактні дані. Будь ласка, звертайтеся, якщо є запитання, Viber, Telegram, пошта, або просто телефонуйте, кому як зручно.
Олю, є одне питання, яке, напевно, більш до тебе. Подивись в Q&A, якщо ти ще не бачила. Прокоментуй, будь ласка, якщо є така можливість.
Да, бачила стосовно PTE Academic. На жаль, ми ніякого відношення саме до іспиту PTE Academic не маємо. Цим займається інший центр тестування, який знаходиться в Києві. Давайте я зараз знайду. У нас просто на сайті є посилання з центрами тестування, є контактні дані цього центру. Я думаю, ви можете туди звернутися і запитати всю інформацію. Я зараз...
Давай ми попросимо пані Олександру, сподіваюся, вона ще тут, так, зв'язатись з тобою стосовно цього питання, і ти просто пошериш з нею інформацію, ту, яку маємо, тому що, так як, можливо, ми не маємо відношення там безпосередньо до проведення, то, як мінімум, там написано наше ім'я, Pearson академік, і точно допомогти зорієнтувати, допомогти знайти рішення. Це ми можемо зробити, як Оля ось сказала, тому зверніться, пані Олександро, сподіваюсь, ви ще тут до Олі. Пані Олександро, скажіть, що ви тут. Бачу подяки від всіх, але не пані Олександрі. Окей. Так. Є. Добре. Мені здається, більше питань не було. Якісь там виникали, вже кілька по ходу мені би відповідали. Ну що ж, шановні колеги, дякуємо вам за увагу. Дякую, що доєднались сьогодні до нашого вебінару. Будь ласка, бережіть себе та близьких, залишайтесь в теплі, у безпеці. Допомагаємо нашим хлопцям та дівчатам на передовій, наближаємо нашу перемогу, піклуємось про наших учнів, наших кандидатів, наших дітей. Це наше майбутнє, тому дбаємо, звичайно, одне про одного і про всіх оточуючих близьких. Тоді, шановні колеги, до нових зустрічей. До побачення. Дякую вам.
Побачення.